Hey, good morning and welcome back to the homestead. So the weather's finally cooled down here in Florida. Cool weather, of course, brings on cool weather crop time. So we're doing some carrots today. I started carrots a few weeks back in one spot. I started carrots last week in another spot, and I'm doing a third spot today. So kind of a succession planting thing going on with the carrots. I'm not an expert carrot grower. I'm not an expert gardener at all. But there is a tip that I have learned from somebody else on YouTube. I wish I could remember who it was because I'd like to give them credit. But I thought I'd show you in case you don't know this tip. So we're going to get the ground prepared here. We'll get some seeds in and I'm going to show you that tip. This has worked for me pretty well. Alright, so I'm going to be doing 3 rows of carrots in this section right here, approximately 6 inches apart per row. Now, of course, when you're planting carrots, they're such small little seeds, we tend to overplant them and then have to come back and thin them out. But I want to leave them kind of close together because, well, we've got limited space. Get as much as we can in there. I think that if they're in there a little tighter, it's just better. But get my furrows dug. I have this little furrow digging tool. It's pretty handy. So we will use that, get our furrows dug, and then we'll get some seeds in the ground. Now, really, you don't have to dig furrows for carrot seeds because they're such fine seeds. They only need to be just barely below the surface, so you can just put them on there and then cover them up. But I'm not very happy with the soil here that I have here. It's got a lot of bigger material in there than really what I want for these seeds to be setting in. So I've just got a little bit of finer potting mix here that I'm going to sprinkle into the furrows. And then that was really about the only reason for putting those furrows in there in the first place. So I'm going to sprinkle this in and we'll put our seeds into this mix. So the idea here is just to give the seeds something a little bit nicer to bed on top of. If you have great soil that you're happy with, you don't have to do any of this. All right, so now I'm going to put my seeds down, just very lightly cover them, and then I'll show you the trick. So I'm using a kaleidoscope blend here of carrot seed. So this will be the multicolored type rather than the plain old, just one color, orange, boring. So we'll try these out, see how they are. See how well they grow and what they taste like. I guess I'm going for about, ideally I'm going for about every inch to 2 inches that I can thin out later. We're of course going to get some clumping in there where we're going to have multiple seeds in one spot that we can thin out later as well. It's just kind of the nature of doing it with carrots. But here we go. So we're going to spread these out on here. So now we're just going to very lightly brush our hand across there to kind of cover those up very, very lightly. We don't want a lot of dirt on top of them at all. All right, so here is the trick. We're going to water it in and then we're going to cover it up with a piece of wood. Setting it on top of the ground here, and what that's going to do is that's going to help to retain the moisture and helps with germination. We keep it on there for 3 or 4 days until we start to see sprouting, and then we can take them off of there and let the sun energy get to them and help them go up from there. But just to get them germinated, it's a great way of doing it. It's kind of similar to putting them into a paper towel and a plastic bag that's moistened and helping to get things to sprout. But with carrots, since they're so fine, we don't want to be trying to transplant things like that. So this is a way of doing something similar, but with direct sowing. I've done it 3 times now. It's worked quite well for me each time. So here we go. So now with it all watered, we're just going to take pieces of wood and set it on top of there, right? And that's going to help to hold that moisture in. I'm just using scrap wood. You don't need anything special, right? It's just pieces of wood that we can set on top of there, on top of those rows, and that's all there is to it. All right, so that's it. So you can see we've got the rows covered up, and when we come back and water, we're just going to water right on top of this as long as it dries out. If it doesn't dry out, of course we don't need to water. But if it looks like it's starting to dry out, we'll just water right on top of these, and it'll soak in and keep those seeds moist. Now, in a few days, you can come back and you can kind of peek underneath of these and see if you see sprouts starting to form. Let me show you on this set over here. These ones I just took the blocks off yesterday, and you can see these little sprouts coming up, right? And we'll come back here and thin some of these out as they start to mature a little bit. We can see which ones are the strong ones that we want to keep, right? And then a few weeks in, they'll look more like that. Okay? So, like I say, I'm not an expert gardener. Definitely not an expert with carrots, but this has worked for me. And if you've had trouble in the past trying to germinate carrots seeds, or you thought that maybe you need to start them in pots and then transplant them, this is an easier way. It's worked for me, so give it a try. I hope that helped. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.